Let's talk about it.
Welcome back to Thicc Radio, the podcast where we talk about gaining, fetism, and everything in its orbit. I'm James.
And I'm Tim, so let's get into it. Today we're welcoming to the show. Today we've got Mike.
Hello, everyone.
Hey, baby, how you doing?
Doing good, how are you?
Doing good.
All the better for seeing your gorgeous round face, my dear.
Why, thank you.
And round it is indeed. When we do the socials later on, to be fair, I think you're quite well known, quite well received by a large contingency of people, so I'd be very interested to know if many listeners don't know who you are, but if anyone doesn't, when you hear the socials, go and check out our dear friend Mike. He is a fat fucker, and a gorgeous fat fucker at that, so please make sure you go and slide into his DMs and say that exact phrase so he knows you've listened to this episode. There we have it. But Mike, it's such a pleasure to have you here. We've actually been trying to get you on the program now for a couple of months. But, life happens. Life gets in the way.
It does.
But we're here. We're here and we're gay and we're queer and we're fat and we're ready to get into it. So today, we are talking about bodies, we're talking about sex, and we're talking about the positivity of it all. Because something I observe about you, Mike, especially, is you really go up to bat for people when it comes to the self-love aspect of, and not even just gayness, but I would say bears, chubs, really anyone who's not a thin white twink, typically speaking. I think you tend to champion quite strongly and quite loudly. Would you say that's a fair estimation?
I'd say so.
Good stuff. But listen, that's why we wanted to really talk to you about this, because I'll say this. I feel like there are a lot of people who, especially as far as social media is concerned, tend to be the people who, there's like sticker chains that they do now on Instagram where it's like, share this if you're body positive, I can see if you skip. Like, fuck off, Latrice. You know what I mean? Like, this is we're not doing performative activism anymore. It's 2023, people are dying. Can we not just stand up and actually speak for people? So like there's the contingency who do that. You of your own accord recognize the kind of ebb and flow that happens in social media. And I've seen this happen a number of times now where trends go forward or people are coming into your DMs and things are looking a little bit, how's your father? And you are the one who will put your hand up and say, today I want to shout people out. Today I want to encourage people to submit photos of themselves to share, because I want us all to love on people, to share people's beauty and brilliance. And I think that's great. I think it's fantastic that you're out here doing that. And I want to ask, as a kind of intro to all of this, where does that desire come from for you?
So I think for that, I didn't always have the body positivity I have now with myself. I struggled a lot as a kid. I used to wear, t-shirts in a pool because I was a fat kid. I'm a fat guy now, so things don't change. But I was someone who, hid my body, and I want people to be able to have that confidence that I've spent so much time building up for myself. When I do those shout outs, I do more than just, here's a picture in their name. I want them to give me a picture where they feel confident, where they feel good. And I try to do, even for the guys I don't really know as well, at least put something in there. So it's not just, hey, this is a picture with your username. This is a picture and this is something about them. They're really sweet. They're really cute. They're doing this. It's something more, it's a bit more personalized. And I feel that with that, people can kind of realize, he's putting the extra effort because he actually cares. I don't ask for shout outs in return. I just say, hey, send me a picture and we'll shout out. Because I want people to see you. I want you to feel confident. And sometimes, especially like the smaller accounts who maybe they don't have the confidence or they don't have, that following, people can still see them. They're still real people. And you don't only need to be following people with, tens or hundreds of thousands of followers in order to, be respected and be loved, because everyone is deserving of love, no matter if, you're thin, fat, short, tall, hairy, hairless, whatever. Everyone should be able to feel confident and feel that, oh, wow, someone actually cares. because a lot of times people don't think that anyone cares, and it's nice for them to realize that people actually do.
I love that. I think that that's something that the community has been sorely lacking for a while. You know, I totally understand that there is a very self-indulgent, almost bordering on narcissistic thing about this community. Like, this is all about self-promotion. It's all about, like, you know, I wasn't not idolized. I wasn't objectified, you know, previously in my life, but in this community now I am being objectified. And whether you like that or not, you know, there's still this big thing about self-promotion within our community. So I love that you take yourself out of that, and it's like, no, I'd rather promote the community itself, the members, the individual people, and say something nice and try to brighten their day. I think that's really great.
Yeah. And I think as well, you are someone who I think really stands out. I mean, listen, Mr. Connecticut Bear 2023. We have a title holder, girls. We have a title holder on the pod.
Well, technically you have two. I hold a title.
You hold a title?
Yeah, I never told you that.
No.
Yeah, I'm Ohio State Pup 2015.
Okay, well, this is my official platforming myself to go for Mr. Bear UK 20,000. No, I don't know.
I mean, it's a puppy title. It's not a bear or sir title. It's a puppy title, but you know,
it's still just as valid.
Yeah.
It's a title, girl. You know good and goddamn well, if you got on RuPaul's Drag Race, they would have you Alyssa Edwardsing about, like, I was Miss Ohio 2023. I was Little Miss Arkansas Bear Pup Leather Daddy Hooker Ho 2005. I was Little Miss, you know.
Well, the funny part is that I'm the one and only, because the title was dissolved the very next year.
But that, you know, that speaks to your quality. They were like, no, we've had this gentleman as the pup representative. There can be no other. He was so perfect at his job. He was the goodest of boys. Therefore, he gets all the treats. There will be no more. There you go.
More like the guy who owned my title had a mental breakdown and disappeared off the planet for a couple of years.
Wow.
Potato.
Yeah.
You know, there are many ways to read a situation, Timothy, as you dang well know. So we're just going to go with that one, that you were too perfect. Though in saying that, Mr. UK Bear 2022 has asked me to participate for Mr. UK Bear 2023. I don't know if I'm going to do it, because
it's a pageant, girl. If you've never been through a pageant before, they are a different world.
It's a lot. The first one I ever went to was the one I competed in when I lost, and I came back to win it. So you gotta. I suggest going to one first and then entering, so you know what you're getting into. Because every pageant's a little different.
They have it at the nightclubs, you know. So like it's fine. I'm not worried about that part to it. I think I was going to say to him, you know, I feel a bit self-conscious about my teeth, but then I realized the majority of people who apply to these things are British, and they've got fucked grills too. So I'm not worried.
Let's look at our big book of British smiles.
No,
But if you compete for Mr. UK Bear and then win, you can then come to Orlando and compete in World Bear with me, because I'm going to be doing that at some point.
Oh my god!
And then I can beat you.
Can you imagine if we were like competitors and we had to go up against each other? Like, it's the UK versus the US, and she's a fat slut. I've heard so many things about her, but I'd have to like put on like my worst.
And then I'll push you off the stage.
Like, oh my god, he broke my legs. He's defied the competition. I can't believe it. Oh god.
You're gonna Nancy Kerrigan him.
I love how this.
Or you could run for a World Cub. I'll be World Bear, and then we'll take it over together.
That'd be really cute. And I'd just be like snuggled into your belly, like, the cub and the bear coming together. We're petitioning for world peace. We're using our platform. So, sponsored by CPAPs and Hello Tushy Bidets. Oh god, who was I saying this to earlier? Someone was like, oh, you know, you're gonna make the bears clutch their pearls. I'm like, bitch, I'll make the bears clutch their skin tags to get them all around the neck.
Same thing.
Same thing. Anyways, back on track. Yeah,
what are we talking about?
Titles.
Titles, exactly. That's the real thing of this episode, is like titles and who's got the most and how to win.
Although, you know what, that's not a bad idea for an episode later on.
Oh yeah, like actual like bear titles, pup, leather, like big boys competing in pageants. That's not a bad shout. Okay, listeners, hold us accountable to that. some kind of pageantry title episode, and we'll bring
I
back.
would say there's a few I can think of in our community who have titles.
There you go. We'll bring back Mikey for a round table discussion on titles and how to encourage pageantry among the fats. But the reason why I brought this up before is because you mentioned this. You've been on a journey with your weight. You were a fat kid. You're a fat adult, and I imagine, like most people who have grown up fat, you haven't like always existed in a realm of loving the extra poundage. And to be clear, you identify as a gainer within that mindset, correct?
Yes.
Yes.
I kind of go back and forth, but overall, yes.
So walk us through a little bit, like how you kind of came from what we can assume to be the typical not feeling the greatest in a bigger body, all the way through to, for the most part, identifying as a gainer. Walk us through that.
So I've always been a big kid. You know, I've gone a million diets, tried a million things. Even as an adult, even once I found gaining, I've still tried to lose weight. You know, and even now I go to the gym regularly, but I'm not like actively trying to diet or anything or lose weight or anything. I'm just trying to get stronger. But so I guess it probably starts with my gaining journey. I came across gaining at the age of 11, thanks to the powers of YouTube. You know, some great guys. I think the first guy I ever saw that was actually a gainer was Fat Glass Cub or Glass on Grommr. You know, I was looking up, you know, like fat guys, and I came across like Warren Davis and, you know, all that stuff. And then as I got older, I was on Big Guts before I was supposed to. I was on Grommr before I was supposed to, you know, and I've made so many friends around the country and around the world, and it's really become part of who I am. Even on my, you know, bare Instagram page, which I don't like promote being a gainer because I try to keep that a bit separate. I still have a lot of gainers who I follow, a lot of friends who I have in there. I have a few friends who on my bare page follow my gainer page, you know, so it's been a journey of kind of figuring out who you are. And like I said earlier, I used to wear shirts in the pool. Even with my body hair, I used to have my dad, you know, shave my shoulders during the summertime. So it's been a process, and it's kind of came about when around high school. So in middle school, I got bullied for my weight, but I ended up going to a different high school than my classmates, and I decided, you know what, screw it. Why should I care what other people think of me? Because this is who I am, you know, and that's my business. That's not my problem to think about what they care. You know, they don't need to care. I don't need to care that they care. You know, so I had a clean slate, but still, even throughout high school, I still struggled with it internally. But on the outside, I was kind of more of a tough exterior, where nothing bothered me, nothing mattered, and it got me through high school, and then into college. But I was still kind of like, I don't know, I'm, you know, covering up more than I normally would. At least I do now. And then as I got older, I worked on myself. I said, you know what? I am a bear. I'm a big guy. I'm a gainer. I have a big belly, a big chest, and that's fine. And I love my body for that. I love guys who look like me, and that's amazing.
You know, I think there's so much gold there to really circle back to. I mean, I've said this before. One of the biggest gripes I have with the gainer community is, you know, the sort of subterfuge as to why we remain hidden from so many people. And look, there are people who have genuine concerns. Like, I know there are teachers in the community who, like in America, there are laws where it's like, if a student manages to find that you've got like a sex profile of any designation, that could be your job. Like, I get it. There are people who live in genuine situations where, because of the country or the world, it's a bit difficult. But for the most part, we don't have that, right? It's not saying you need to be a gainer, shouting it from the rooftops, outing yourself to your family or anything like that. But, you know, even within like the sort of gainer bear crossover scene here in London, I've seen this plenty of times before. You see gainers who are out and about with non-gainer bears, and if you make an inference that, you know, you might know each other through a more gelatinous approach to body rather than typically bare hair, masculinity, whatever, there's a real hesitancy to that. And people don't want to know you. People don't want to talk about it. And that's in the middle of London, in the middle of like the chubby bear scene, you know? So it's like, I commit a revolutionary act every time I tell someone that I'm a gainer, because people are like, oh, I've never met one who either A, stood up for themselves, or B, wasn't considered a freak. And that just comes from being willing to put yourself forward. Like, half the reason people think that people who are into what we're into are freakish is because they saw, like, a Jerry Springer episode one time 20 years ago, and then they've never seen any representation to challenge that narrative. Representation is important. Owning yourself is important. We're all on a journey for that. But if you've got the time and the space in your life to make a little bit of a patch of grass just to grow and facilitate some self-love and self-promotion in terms of your gaining, go and do that, because honestly, it's not as scary as you think, and you will be shocked at how many people do not give a fuck about what you're doing.
Oh, yeah.
What you do in your day-to-day. Truly well and true. I mean, look, Tim, you're 1,000. You've been through
You bitch.
You've been through this a couple times in the last millennia, you know? I mean, people don't know this. You used to be a super chub before the Black Plague hit.
Yes. What was the question?
Sorry, sometimes I get so bogged down in like trying to think of an age.
Yeah, making fun of how old I am that you forget what the question is.
That I forget what I want to
Daddy.
Yeah, there you go, Daddy. I mean, like, what have your experiences been like in terms of, because you've told this story before about how you've been in the leather scene, you always liked bigger guys. You, like me, were extremely thin at one point. You know, we both have some sense of thin privilege within that space, and you've had to go on a journey to be where you're at now. So tell us about that journey for you. How did you go from being, you know, typical little coked out twink to being Chef Daddy today?
How dare you bring up my past like that? So, you know, I feel like my journey, it's certainly not unique, but I feel like it's sometimes a bit different because I discovered the gainer community online at about 18 with the old Belly Builders website, the Yahoo groups, Gainer Web, all that stuff. I've been on, you know, every subsequent site since, like Beefy Frat and Grommr and, you know, a few other places. But I was mostly just an encourager. I just said that I was an encourager because I wasn't really committed to the idea of putting weight on my body. I didn't really I couldn't imagine myself bigger. And I was, even though I was thin and I was enjoying thin privilege, and I was, you know, one of those Twinkie boys out at the gay bars every weekend, I didn't feel secure. I didn't feel hideous, but I knew that people were going to pass me over because I was not overt, because I wasn't pushing everything in everyone's face all the time, and because I wasn't prancing around. You know, I was usually kind of the bitchy, quiet one in the corner. And I didn't know that I could have used that to my advantage at the time. See, at the time I thought, well, no one's going to want this. But then as the years went on, I got interested in bloating. That's kind of really where it all started. I would bloat on like Yahoo Messenger for people way back in the day. And I liked the look of it, but I also liked that it was impermanent. You know, it would just go away by morning. And I think somewhere around 26-ish, weight started to stick because I was binge drinking every weekend. You know, I was going out to the bar and I was just drinking beer and booze, and, you know, so I was getting that bloat. And I think I posted one of the first like bloated pictures of myself of, you know, where I actually had some fat on me on Grommr, and it got some responses. So then I started dipping my toe into this, and I'm like, am I really into it? You know, like I'm really into it on other guys, but am I into it on me? And I don't know exactly what age I was when the flip finally happened, but at one point I was actually getting turned on by it. And then I was like, okay, so clearly this is what I want to do. And it's kind of just gone from there. Like, you know, it was a much later thing for me. I know I was in my 30s. I was at least 31 or 32 when I made the decision, like, I am in fact a gainer, and I'm about to hit 40, but I'm all in. You know, this is now, I can see myself being bigger. I really get turned on by the idea of me being bigger. So it took me a while, but I feel like this is what was always missing before, because when I committed to it, put on weight intentionally, my confidence went through the roof.
Yeah. I mean, Mike, to ask this of you, because you've told us about that journey, can you sort of pinpoint the time, like, where you first kind of looked in the mirror and you didn't just think that you looked good, you were like, oh, I'm kind of turning myself on with all of this. Like, can you tell us about that?
So it was pretty early on. I mean, I still struggled for a while going back and forth, but when I was, again, probably younger than I was supposed to be, I was really kind of getting into it. And I remember like measuring my belly and, like playing with it and, stuffing myself and, feeling how good it felt while I was bloated. And I think that was definitely turning me on as like a young teenager. And then, as I got older, I started like, talking to people because I waited till, I was 18 for that. And then I started getting more involved in my community, on Grommr, posting things, the internet, and even like Omegle. I spend a lot of time on Omegle talking to guys. I still do.
That's like chat roulette, though, isn't it? Like you never know who's
Yeah,
going to be on the other end.
but you can choose interests, so you
Oh,
can put
okay.
like gainer, feeder, feedy,
Oh, I did
Really?
not
And
know that that was an option.
yeah. Mhm.
Go, Gale.
Okay, well, I might be doing the same.
Yeah, we're gonna
I'll
go
see you there.
after this recording today. We're gonna go to Omegle, so we'll see you all there. Um, yeah. No, but I love hearing that. I love hearing that there's that moment, and I do think this is something that all gainers, muscle, fat, beginner, experienced. I think this is something we've all got in common. There's like a moment where you are just in it, and you catch like a glimpse of yourself in the mirror, and you're like, oh fuck, I've got a fucking semi looking at myself. I'm such a
Mhm.
insert whatever iteration of gaining is turning you on. It does it, and I think that's such a unique thing that gainers have that other kinks, fetishes, sexualities don't, where we can find autosexuality and an autosexual motivation in what we do. So if you're listening and you feel that moment when you dabble your toes in gaining, that's the sign from on high that this is for you and you have found your path, so you better stick with it and have another fucking cheeseburger. Goddamn. Um, but to circle a little bit to more, I guess, generic body positivity here, because again, you do a lot of this on your Instagram. What have your experiences been like with the body positivity movement, TM?
I think a lot of people are afraid of it. I think society kind of, pushes you to be a certain way. And a lot of guys, especially, the bears, the gainers, the chubs, the bigger guys, even some of the smaller guys too, they're not that, buff, ripped model type, you know, so they feel that they're not good enough because society told them they need to have a six pack and huge biceps and pecs and, 6% body fat. And that's not the case. That's not realistic for a vast majority of the population. Part of that is just kind of finding, okay, this is something I love about myself. This is one thing I like in others that I also have. Maybe it's body hair, maybe it's a beard, maybe it's a belly, you know, whatever it may be. It's okay to say, you know what? I find that attractive. I think I'm hot. And that's kind of the big thing. It's, even when it comes to like other things, it's like leather and all that. I have leather. I love my leather. I have harnesses. I have full leathers. I have all that. But you don't need to go out and spend thousands of dollars on, the highest quality leathers and everything in order to be welcome in the leather community. You don't need to be 500 pounds to feel welcome in the gainer community. Even if you never go full leather formals and, Westco boots, which are like, if you're not familiar, those are like really, really nice boots. It's like the top tier boots, whatever.
Yeah.
But you don't need that. I love leather boots. They're from Home Depot, and I love them. I wear them all the time. They look great. They feel great. They're comfortable, and they weren't thousands of dollars.
We also
There's
said a
no.
lot of that stuff when it came to being a pup. Like a pup is just a state of mind. Like you didn't have to have all of the gear. You didn't have to have the mask and the knee pads and the gloves and everything. Now, a lot of that stuff was for safety if you were going to mosh, but if you were never going to be moshing, then you could just say you were a pup and you could wear whatever the hell you wanted because again, state of mind. It's not about what you're wearing, it's about how you feel.
No.
Showing up and being present is half the fucking battle. And people talk all the time about look queens, whether it's drag, leather, whatever, swanning about the place because they know they look good, preening and whatnot, wanting to be the ones seen and about. but they're not out there making friends. If you go to an event and you just strike up a conversation with someone, you are far more likely to make friends just by virtue of existing, rather than like being hot and unapproachable. Because newsflash, being hot and unapproachable means you're unapproachable. People aren't going to want to come to you, and if they do come to you, they're probably only going to want sexy stuff with you, which is not a problem if you want that. But again, when we're trying to compare ourselves against the people we see being the most visible in the leather community, in the bear community, in the gainer community, it's like you said, you don't need to be 500 pounds. Girl, if you gain from being 150 pounds to 200 pounds, you are still a gainer, bitch. If you gain from 190 to 200 pounds, you are still a gainer. Your presence is valid. Your gains are valid. If it takes you a year, if it takes you 10 years, your gains are valid. Fuck anyone who wants to try
and if you lose, and if your weight fluctuates in that time too, you're still no different.
Oh, fully that. Oh, he chose to lose weight. Girl with the monobrow, with the halitosis, shut the fuck up. Let a bitch do what she wants to do with her motherfucking body. Again, the gag of it all. We are in this community, in bodies, in a desire for transformation that feels like it gets exiled anywhere else. And we are going to sit here and do the exact same thing to our brothers and sisters. Fuck off with that bullshit.
But have you ever encountered any community that is predominantly queer that doesn't have infighting? I mean, unfortunately, I feel like it's a really sad truth. I mean, queer people as an umbrella, there tends to be a lot of infighting. And I kind of get where it comes from, but then I also like, because I understand that we've all been kind of conditioned to fight for one spot. It's almost as if there's only so many slots available, you know, and if you're not in one of the top tiers, you're not being paid attention to.
If people aren't making a space for you, create your own dang space. You don't need permission to do that. You just need the verve and the drive to do it. I like what we were talking about before when we were talking about, you know, not to say like the infighting necessarily, but, you know, there are aspects within which I think because the gainer community tries to keep itself isolated at times, it misses the boat on a lot of things, especially when it comes to like fat lib, body positivity. So I want to ask you, do you feel like there are aspects of body positivity that need to adapt for gainers, or is it rather the other way around?
So as someone obviously who does a lot of body positivity, I don't see it as much in the gainer community as I see it in the bear community. You know, I spend a lot of time in both communities, and, you know, I feel like because of the nature of our kink, where, you know, everyone, you know, it's bigger is better, and, you know, everyone's trying to grow, and no one's, you know, per se happy about where they are. They want more. I'm not seeing as much at least encouragement of body positivity. It's sort of like, oh, you're too small, you need to, you know, gain 10 pounds, even if it's, you know, an encourager, or, you know, even in good fun. You know, I think it's very rare to see like, wow, you look great as you are. You know, it's like, oh, you're okay, but with 50 more pounds, you know, you'd look better. You know, and again, sometimes that's really hot to think about, but other times when you're not in that headspace, it makes you feel like, oh, I'll be good enough for this feeder if I reach X, Y, and Z. Like, I had a friend who was really was into this feeder daddy guy, and he wasn't allowed to like visit the daddy unless he gained like 20 pounds or whatever.
Oh, that's not fun.
We were just talking about this on a round table about how negging does not work for everybody. Okay, like I granted, it seems to work for some people. It does not work for me. You know, so if I'm feeling my oats and I post a TikTok or an Instagram photo, and someone leaves a comment like, oh, well, you could be bigger, I just want to be like, do you think that helps me? Do you honestly think that somehow like inspires me to get, if anything, it just is, I'm like, oh, well, all right, I guess I'm not good enough, so shouldn't have posted this.
I think a big thing with our community is that, unlike most kinks and fetishes, we can't just take it off. You know, like, you put on leather, you can take that off, hang it up, and you're a regular person again. Same with, you take off a pup hood, you're a regular person again. You know, you can't just take your belly off, you can't just take the weight off. But I think with so many guys, especially like in our community that are like strictly feeders or encouragers, you know, it seems so easy to them. But unless you're actually putting in the work and eating the food and trying to put on the weight, it's really difficult. It's really expensive. And, they have all these demands and these, high hopes, but it's like, okay, you want me to put on 100 pounds this year? I haven't seen a dime from you.
Ma'am, we said this on the Virgin Vita episode. Handy piece of advice to anyone who wants to encourage, feed, whether you've done it before or if you haven't. If you are struggling to understand the capacity of a gainer, remember this. If you can't eat it, they can't eat it. Most people cannot gorge on a shitload of food all at once. You've got to be sensible and reasonable about this. Don't order 6 pizzas thinking that someone can do this. Most people cannot. Take the time to figure it out. Trust me,
Yeah.
you have
Well, I feel like, especially what you just said, like, don't order 6 pizzas. Like, also, I mean, I'll kind of take into consideration the size of the person that you're with. Like, there might be some gainers that can do that, but like, if you look at me and you think that I could fit 6 pizzas inside my body, which, my stomach is obviously going to be smaller than someone who is, 3 times my weight. I think the laws of physics have to be considered at some point.
Yeah, like, come on,
But
kid.
also, it's like, hey, how much can you eat? It's a simple question.
Yeah. And not being shitty about it. Like, I have had guys, both on Instagram and on Grommr, who've been like, oh, is that all you can eat? Doesn't seem like you're a real guy. I'm sat here like, Mary, I will sit on you. All right?
I can eat twice as much as you can, bitch. What are you doing?
But listen, I want to talk a little bit about your sex positivity, because this is something I think, again, anyone who follows you can get a sense of. You are a very sexy man. You are very sex positive. Where has that element come from for you?
So I think there's a difference between being sexual and having sex. And I think that even both of those terms can have multiple meanings. So, like, I think it depends. So, like, anal is very different than like oral. There's a lot less preparation involved for oral, but even, like making out, massaging someone else, putting a hand up in a hole, different things. I think it's important that people kind of find where they're happy and where they're enjoying. For example, I have a big dick. It's just how it is. But realistically, while it's hot to look at for people who are into that, it's not as easy to use as you might think. Because I could hurt someone. I don't want to hurt someone. Guys, or even like blowjobs, I don't enjoy them because they hurt. Guys use their teeth. They're not meaning to, but they do. So it's not all what porn. I'll get similar with gaining with versus gainer fiction. Sex versus porn is so different.
I've said it before, and it bears repeating. I don't have to fuck someone to have a good time. Like, I love the body worship. If I get to be the fat one, or both of us are fat, or someone's even fatter than me, and like I get to put all my attention on them, like the majority of fat sex, quote unquote, that I've had is body worship, maybe a little bit of light oral, just a little bit, and then making out and just getting to touch all over that fatness or have them touch mine, and that is more than satisfactory for me.
Totally agreed. My favorite way of coming, if I have to do that with a guy, is actually side by side and he's sucking on my tits. Because I'll tell you right now, I will finish in under 10 seconds. Boom, done. Because
I hate you. I'm jealous.
No, because the weight gain has made my nips fucking sensitive as hell.
It hasn't done anything for mine.
Same.
I want to ask, because the gaining community is rooted in sexuality, do you feel like there are elements to how the community conducts itself that are kind of opposite to being traditionally sexual?
I think that it depends on the situation. I mean, for a gainer guy, or if a gainer is with a feeder or just another gainer, like a belly rub is almost equivalent to like grabbing someone's dick. Especially if it's like on public. It's like, you're turning someone on by touching them or by feeding them or encouraging or saying things. And, I think that's a big part of it. And but I think the community itself can kind of, it depends. I think also, at least from my expectation, from what I've seen, other kinks don't have the kind of community, like, especially like social media and things. Like, yeah, there's Recon, which exists, but nobody likes Recon. It's really not
No,
a
it's
good app.
terrible. It's really terrible.
It's literally the worst.
Yeah, it's bad.
It's like Growler but worse.
Mhm.
And they want to charge you like $14 a month
I know.
for no
Like,
reason. And
it's
it's like, no,
ridiculous.
like just sending a photo is difficult. And it's like, well, Grommr has plenty of its issues, and I mean plenty, relatively compared to other fetish and kink related paid websites and apps. It is one of the better ones for the interface. You can find people easily. You can post what you want. You can DM people. Um, but compare that to like FetLife, which doesn't even have an app, or the website is not that easy to use, or Recon or things like that. It's honestly really good, and we're lucky because most kinks and fetishes, even like the bigger ones like leather, there isn't anything like that. I call Grommr Gainer Facebook.
Yeah.
And but it also allows people to kind of be almost like keyboard warriors and say
Yeah.
things, whether they're overtly sexual or they're rude, and they're able to kind of like like essentially catcall you, even if you don't ask for it.
Yeah.
Whether in the DMs or in a comment. So I think in that regard, yes, it's kind of. I'm not on a tangent at this point. Just stop me.
No, it's okay.
But
Like, we've done a fair amount of complaining about Grommr over the years, but that is not to say that we think it shouldn't exist. Like, I'm very happy that it does exist. I'm glad that people, who were gainers took the time to create it. It needs a lot of improvement, but I would not want to see it go away.
100%. There's this weird cultural vibe these days, which is someone creates something, it's not immediately perfect, tear it down and destroy it. Whereas the literal process of like human evolution, creature evolution, is building upon the thing that was already there. So you create a thing, you go, where are the gaps? Let's do a big update to try and fill in as many gaps as we can. And eventually you keep on that process until you create something entirely new. And then you got a brand new slew of things to deal with. And you got to keep going, keep evolving, growing, changing, creating something new and different. That is something potentially missing from Grommr, but I also think it's something missing from how we as individuals act within the community. We say this all the time on the podcast. We created this half the reason because no one was having intellectual conversations about gaining. And let's be real here, there is more to gaining than just the fact that it makes you hot and horny.
Read the goddamn bio.
Yeah, that's an important one. Nobody ever does that.
Read the bio. I do want to ask, curiously, because we're kind of on this sex subject, what's your experience with toys?
So I use them mostly when I'm trying to bottom. I don't bottom a whole lot, but when I do, I need to open myself up. I'm also kind of weird. Like, I don't jerk off with lube at all.
I didn't used to.
I have a full,
so
I'm fine.
Must be nice.
It is. Thank you. Tim and I had a very long conversation recently.
We did.
Like arguing for and against force.
Well, I would, it was a healthy discussion. It was a healthy little debate. I don't mind sharing. I'm cut and I actually prefer it that way, but that's my preference.
And I don't like genital mutilation, especially where consent is not given or had, personally.
I mean, I think there's multiple reasons for it. I mean, I'm also cut. I'm fine with it. I like it on myself. But like, I had an ex who was not cut, and last year he had to get cut.
Oh, did he have priapism or something?
Something. It was getting tighter, and he had to, as an adult, have a circumcision. I'm glad I don't have to deal with it as an adult who has pain receptors and memories.
No, thank you.
Yeah, so in that case, I'm very happy that it's not something I have to deal with. I know that there can be, other issues with people who are uncut, but I mean, for the most part, if you're uncut, most people are fine with it, and that's great.
Yeah.
So I want to ask, because you're a bigger boy, you say you do prep if you're going to bottom. What kind of positions are we talking? What kind of like rituals are we looking at to kind of get your body ready as a big boy to do the do?
So typically what I'll do is I will take my toys into my shower, and I have a variety of sizes. And I kind of just like slowly open myself up, and then once I'm opened up, I douche, and then I am ready to go. Sometimes if I'm not like bottoming immediately, but I need to shower anyway, do what I gotta do, I'll put a plug in. And then it kind of depends with the guy. Um, one of the positions I like is called boat, which no one really knows what it is, but it's essentially when the bottom is, belly down, ass up, and then the top is kind of on top of them, like on the boat, and then they fuck them like that. Or another good one is obviously feet over the shoulders. That always helps. Those are probably my two go-tos. But sometimes you have to adjust, and again, it's not porn, it's not perfect.
Yeah,
You laugh about it, it's awkward sometimes, and you have to adjust or change positions or try something new, or you know your ass is up and you're on the side of the bed, they're standing behind you fucking you or whatever like that. So I think it very much depends on the chemistry and the people, and just sometimes the body just doesn't work, and you gotta move it, and you gotta change it and figure out what you gotta do.
do we have time for a funny question?
Of
Cool.
course.
Okay, so I as a top, when you're doing the boat, or yeah, I would have just called it doggy style.
That too.
And like, you're big and the other person is big, and you have to, at some point you're going to have to like sort of be on top of them because your legs are going to start to get tired. Like when all that flesh is mushing together and the air gets trapped, do you ever laugh at like the sort of like fart noises
Oh, of
that's
course,
made by
of
your own
course.
skin?
Especially when you're sweaty, hell yeah.
Oh yeah, well you got to giggle. So I found a lot of people take sex far too seriously. Like there's going to be farts generally, squeaking. There's going to be things.
Because those people, they see sex in the vision of porn.
Yeah.
Porn is videos, there's editing, even the amateur porn on OnlyFans, things are edited, things are changed. It's not perfect. Even with this podcast, you're gonna cut things out, and that's okay. But that's not the reality. There's a difference between listening to a podcast and having a real life conversation.
Yeah.
And the same thing goes with porn, it goes with gaming. There's this like fantasy perfection, and then there's real life. And real life isn't perfect with anything. And you kind of have to be ready for that. And until you kind of understand that, your expectations are gonna be way too high.
That's exactly what I would have said. You may, I don't know, it could be your first time going to an event or being in a shared space with people who share your fetish, or maybe people who are even adjacent to your fetish, and just try to take yourself out of your comfort zone a little bit and open up. I know it's scary because I was socially awkward too once upon a time, but you will never break out of that if you don't try.
Yeah, there's an argument to be made, right? Because again, we've kind of circled back to this before. Like, there's allowances that you can make to try and give yourself time to try and ease yourself into things, and that's great. But then it kind of comes to a point, and we use this example with events, right? You'd be like, oh, there's events happening in my city, but I don't know anyone. Oh, we'll make some friends. Oh, well, I don't like those people. Well, then you got to go to the next major city. Oh, well, I can't drive. I don't have a car. At that point, it's like, throw yourself off a bridge. Like, there is no option for you other than pull your finger out and do it, or just decide that you don't care enough to bother. Yeah. Like, if you have those other factors, concern yourself with those factors, get them resolved so you can go. But at that point, you're looking for an excuse. And so instead of creating this trauma moment for yourself, just do it. Or don't. I don't care. No one actually cares. But you have to decide what is right for you. No one's going to decide for you. And I think that's another good point with all of this talk on body positivity and everything else. You can have an entire movement of it's okay to be big, it's okay to love yourself, but if you're not making steps to decide to love yourself, all of that is going to pass you by. You will not be included in that because you are disincluding yourself from it, right? Not people are cutting you in. So
And I think we, as people who have gotten to the point where we've embraced ourselves, we have, gotten the courage to be positive about our bodies. One second. We, it's almost our duty to help those people who have not gotten there yet.
Yeah.
We know we've done it, we've been through it, and again, we may not have had the support that we wish we had. Help someone else. I have a
Lead
good
by
friend of mine.
example.
Exactly. But reach out. You say, you see someone struggling, help them. I have a friend he's a muscular guy, but he's been bulking recently, and he's trying to embrace being a bigger guy and getting fatter and being more of a gainer. And he's struggling with it because society has told him he needs to be this, skinny muscular guy. And he was doing that for a while. And he's still lifting weights and everything, but he's slowly been bulking, more perma-bulk style, and he's been loving it, but he's still timid. And I do what I can. I talk to him all the time, because sometimes he'll get second thoughts, and it's like, okay, you look great. You are hot. You find this body that you have attractive in other people.
Yeah.
Why do you not find it attractive in yourself?
It's a fair question. I'll say this before we begin to wrap up, but we said this in the mental health episode. We need to challenge ourselves not to wait until we see people drowning before we go out and try to do something. Like, don't wait for people to come to you. If you see someone having a moment, take the initiative to go to them and just extend a hand. It's a kind thing to do, it's a good thing to do, and it is very helpful. To wrap up, I want to ask a question here, because I know that there's kind of all these different elements we're touching on, and you could argue there's different perspectives and different takes and whatnot. I want to ask you, out of everything we've talked about today, what is the biggest takeaway you want listeners to have about this conversation?
I think the biggest thing is that you need to lower your expectations about what is right and what is okay, because so many people hold, the perfect body, the perfect sex, the perfect everything on this pedestal. And you need to realize that it's okay to be, it's perfectly fine to not be perfect. You are who you are. You have sex the way you do. You have the body that you have. Those are all phenomenal things. Those are things that don't need to change. My biggest thing is, oh, I'm losing weight because guys don't like me. No. If you want to lose weight so you can be healthier, so you can look better, whatever, feel better, that's fine. I will encourage that. But if you're going to change, even with the opposite, with gaining, I don't want you to gain 150 pounds because some guy told you look better with 150 pounds. If you were only planning on gaining 10 more. Especially when it comes to changing your body, those desires need to be intrinsic. Because if they're not, you will continue to chase something that isn't even what you want. So you need to learn to love the skin that you're in and realize that you are sexy at any size. You are sexy the way you are. You are perfectly fine the way that you are. And you don't need to change that.
I love that. I think that's so important. And honestly, circling back, that's exactly why we wanted to have you on with us today, Mikey. Thank you so much for giving us your time, your energy, and your wisdom today. Honestly, thank you so fucking much.
Thank you for having me, both of you.
Oh, we love and adore you. Where can listeners find you online?
So you can find me on Grommr at ItalianSuperman4. You can find me on Instagram. My gainer Instagram is thefatitalianbear4. Or you can find my bear Instagram. It's MikeyBear4444. A lot of fours in there. But I am active on all three of those. Send me a message, say hi, say you listen to the podcast. I'd love to talk to you if you have any questions, anything I can do to help. I'm here for anyone.
Baby, there you have it. Oh, that's a wrap for now here on Thicc Radio. Please remember to like and subscribe, rate us 5 stars, and leave us a good review, gal. If you liked this episode, the podcast, or just us in general, share it with your friends and encourage them to tune in. You can find me on Instagram and BeefyFrat at stannnum.
And you can find me on Instagram, Twitter, YouTube, TikTok, and BeefyFrat at Thicky Mouse. You can look us up on TikTok at Thicc Radio or at our website at www.podpage.com/Thicc Radio. If you want to submit a voice note, you can reach us at anchor.fm @thiccradio.com/message. And if you have any questions or ideas for episodes, you can reach us at thefatitalianbear4@gmail.com. So until next time, bye, Fats.
Bye, Fats.
Bye, Fats.
Let's talk about it.
Thicc Radio is a Patreon and Enter app podcast produced by Stannnum and Mickey Mouse.
Mixed and mastered by stannnum.
Our artwork is provided by Lokitu.
Our theme song is provided by Spotify.